About 180 years ago, there was an English lawyer named John Bethel. Now, not surprisingly, John got bored with the practice of law. But he was really good with his hands. So he decided he'd become an inventor. In a few short years, he had won a number of patents, including one for an airtight diving suit. Now, this led John to another perplexing maritime problem: how to protect the wood in sailing ships from rotting. Now, he tried a number of different processes and came across a process where he could impregnate the wood with this new distillate called creosote that would stop the wood from deteriorating. Now, 3 decades later, a New Yorker named Lewis Robbins came across Bethel's work, and he believed it could really help the emerging infrastructure needs within the country. And in his paper promoting his new company, he boldly predicted that the patented Robbins process would, quote, arrest the universal process of decay. This would not only save millions of dollars in replacement costs, but would help conserve the country's forests. Now let's fast forward to today. In our modern 21st century, pressure-treated wood remains an essential part of our infrastructure. Thousands of miles of rails rest on treated wood ties. There are about 150 million treated wood poles that bring electricity and communication services to every corner of our continent. Our ports are supported by treated wood pilings, and there are tens of thousands of treated wood bridges who carry both vehicles as well as pedestrians. Now, you'll even find preserved wood in our trails and parks areas from things such as fences, signposts, boardwalks, and other outdoor structures. Now, despite this wide use, treated wood is still often dismissed as being too primitive, too much maintenance, or simply too dangerous for the environment. However, the story of preserved wood is far different than those perceptions. Now, I will admit I have some bias on this issue. I'm a wood guy. I'm the third generation of my family to make their livelihood from wood. I think if you were to cut me, I'd probably bleed sawdust. And over the years, my family has experienced firsthand the struggle we've had as a country in balancing our desire and use of natural resources and the impacts of that use on our environment. Now, this push and pull of competing needs plays out in our trails and parks as well. We want people to come, enjoy the trails, so they'll support conservation and the future use of those areas. But at the same time, we have to have facilities that support those visits without having a significant impact on the landscape. Now, in a perfect world, we would invent a magical material to take care of all of these needs. It would have to be natural, easy to work with, strong, inexpensive, durable, and pose no risk to the environment. Well, that's a pretty tall order, but we have the material that meets almost all of these competing needs. It's wood. The only area where it comes somewhat short is in durability, particularly when we use it for outdoors. Now, wood comes from trees, and trees are made to grow, die, be broken down into organic material, and continue this natural cycle. But we're not too keen on this cycle if we turn that tree into a wood product. Whatever we build out of wood, we want it to last. Now, as those 19th century inventors discovered, we can keep that cycle at bay by putting in a chemical barrier right inside the wood. It not only protects the wood, but it also retains its strength and workability. Now, if you were to look at wood fiber through a microscope, you'll see that it resembles a collection of straws with openings in the end and along the sides. Now, in a live tree, these straws help transport water and nutrients from the roots to the full length of the tree. Now, when this tree dies, those same water and nutrients attract organisms that feed on those and also feed on the wood fiber, breaking it down. Now, in wood treating, we use these natural tubes to make that protection. To treat wood, we place it in a cylinder, and then we fill that cylinder with an oil or water-based preservative. Then we add pressure to push that preservative into the holes, replacing the water and creating a protective barrier. Now, few have any issues with this treating process. Where they might have a hang-up, however, is in what is being infused into the wood. Preservatives are chemicals, and they are intended to keep the multitude of threats away from the wood. As such, they are a pesticide targeted against organisms that consume wood. Now, I can see some eyebrows raised when I say the words pesticides and chemicals in the same sentence. And we should have a healthy concern about exposing our trails and environment to these types of things. Still, it's important to understand what's in wood preservatives and why we use them. Now, the organisms that seek to break down wood are relentless, and they are ever present in our environment. Any type of protection that we have to have in that must be robust enough to withstand these attacks year after year, decade after decade. In trails and parks, we're placing the wood in the most demanding conditions right where these organisms live, in or near the ground with plenty of warmth, water, and oxygen that they need to thrive. Now, integrating this protection inside the wood is an essential part of its longevity. Sure, you can brush or spray some sort of type of coating, a paint, a stain, or something like that, and it will provide some short-term protection for the wood. However, over time, that protection will diminish, and that'll give an opportunity for decay to get a foothold, start breaking down that wood fiber, and creating a potential safety hazard. Now, pressure-treated wood was originally intended for long-term infrastructure uses. And in the early part of the 20th century, we treated those under a philosophy of more is better. And that continued through much of the 20th century. And the products that we made from those infrastructure products, rail ties, utility poles, pilings, and timbers, did exactly what we asked. They lasted in place for decades. In the 1970s, preserved wood moved closer to home. As American home designs changed, we began to want outdoor living spaces. So things like decks and fencing and gazebos became fashionable and are now a part of our housing stock. Now, at the turn of this last century, many in the country started taking a look at our use, or more aptly, our overuse of chemicals and their impact on the environment. One popular preservative came under scrutiny, CCA. Now, CCA stands for copper chromated arsenate, and arsenate is a form of arsenic. Now, there are no documented cases of health impacts from exposure to CCA-treated wood. However, in 2005, the treating industry, working with the Environmental Protection Agency, decided to voluntarily remove CCA-treated wood from residential uses. Much of the concerns and many of the misperceptions about CCA and about treated wood stem from what happened with CCA. Again, there have never been any documented cases of health impacts caused by exposure to CCA-treated wood. And in fact, we continue to use it today in things like agricultural posts, fencing, and utility poles. Still, that may lead some of you to question, why should we use treated wood at all when we have other alternatives such as concrete or plastic composites? Well, I believe that preserved wood has many unique qualities that tie in with what we want in our trails and parks. Now, there are other naturally durable species available, cedar and redwood. But it's important to remember that only the heartwoods of these species have this natural durability, and those are from the center of the tree. The supplies of all heart products are very limited, and they're much more expensive than preserved wood. Now, all wood has a natural warmth that we connect with, and treating really doesn't change that connection. Wood is strong and resilient, yet it's light, making it easy to transport to wherever we're going to build those structures. And it's very workable with basic tools. Wood has a natural insulating quality that helps dissipate heat, making it useful for things like handrails and seating. And we have a long documented track record of keeping wood structures safe and in place for decades. It is true that some maintenance is going to be required for wood. However, the time and effort required to do that maintenance pays off significantly in extending the life of that product. All materials will require maintenance at some point. Now, my industry has worked to earn the trust in safe use of preserved wood, and we developed a new generation of preservatives that are available today. The chief ingredient in these preservatives is soluble copper, which is an effective deterrent against decay and termites. This effectiveness is enhanced by the addition of fungicides and biocides, which are also found in other products such as medicines, cleaners, and plant care products. Popular preservatives such as copper azole, or CaC, and micronized copper azole, MCA, contain azoles, which are antifungal compounds used in medicines as well as products used to clean fruits and vegetables. The A and Q in the preservative ACQ are quaternaries, which are biocides that are found in disinfectants and household cleaners. Now, all wood preservatives are registered by the EPA and undergo a rigorous review on a regular basis. To be approved for use, all wood preservatives must, in the words of the EPA, show that they can be used without causing unreasonable adverse impacts to human health or the environment. In the past 25 years, we've also changed our treating standards to balance the need for protection with the safe use. In 1999, the American Wood Protection Association developed the Use Category Program, and this guides how much preservative we should put in the wood for that protection. This system takes into account where the wood is finally going to be used and the conditions for that. Use categories range from UC1 to UC5. The higher the number, the greater the risk of deterioration and the greater the amount of preservative that needs to be in the wood. Now, the amount of preservative in the wood is called retention. It's really an important thing to understand when it comes to your exposure to preservatives. And it's measured in PCF, or pounds per cubic foot. Now, a cubic foot of wood would be this 2x6, 12 feet in length. Now, if you were to treat this to an above ground, a UC3 level of protection with copper azole, this would have 0.06 PCF, pounds per cubic foot, within the piece, or about 1 ounce of active preservative. This same 12-foot piece treated to UC4 ground contact would have 0.15 PCF, or 2.5 ounces of preservative. Now, even with such small amounts of preservative, we don't take lightly the concerns about the preservative that might move into the environment. So we've created a number of science-based tools to help guide the use of preserved wood in sensitive and aquatic environments. My organization, the Western Wood Preservers Institute, established best management practices, or BMPs. And these are founded on a principle of minimizing the amount of preservative available to move into the environment. And they represent a shared responsibility between the producer as well as the specifier, buyer, and installer in controlling those opportunities for preservative to move. We've supplemented this with an online model that allows you to assess the potential impacts from using preserved wood in aquatic areas. This model is based on extensive scientific research and is used by the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Park System, and a host of other regulatory agencies. Now, at the end of the day, you as managers must make choices on what materials to use in building and maintaining your trail systems. And I understand there are many things that go into influencing those decisions. If I may, I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts as you consider those decisions. First, I believe that wood embodies the spirit of our trail system better than any other material. There's just something about wood that we connect with deeply. Wood is sustainable and renewable. Admittedly, we've had some excesses in our past when it's come to timber harvesting. However, today, we are growing far more timber than we are harvesting, and we've taken steps to ensure that we'll have forest resources for future generations. With treating, we add to that sustainability by extending the life of that wood far beyond the time it takes to grow a new tree to become a replacement product once that treated product comes to the end of its service life. This really is the essence of sustainability, and no other material offers this. It's really naive to think that other materials are without risk or impact. Concrete, steel, and plastic composites all impact the environment in some way. Please take a look at the full life cycle of these products from cradle to grave before assuming they're without risk or impact. Should you choose to use preserved wood, make sure to select the proper use category for the conditions on where you're going to use it. Field treat all ends, cut ends, and holes to maintain that protective barrier, and use the proper fastener. We have a wealth of information available on our website to help you have the best long-lasting experience with preserved wood. Trail systems connect us to the natural world, and they rejuvenate our soul and our spirit. Our trails and the facilities that support them have been created thoughtfully, balancing the needs of the land with those who are visiting it. I wish you the same wisdom in carrying that heritage forward, creating trails that bring both health and happiness to all who use them. And I know the preserved wood can help you in meeting that challenge. Thank you very much.